Good morning or good day to everybody, wherever you are in the world. Very happy that you are here with us today for the monthly IDSA Q&A session. We'll start maybe with a short introduction of who we are, and then we can start with the session itself. My name is Shani Tiran. I am a senior consultant at the impact team at IDSA. What we do is basically try to ensure that IDSA's work translated into real world impact. So capturing feedback, offering help and guidance, facilitating the adoption of IDSA assets and approach by providing tools and so on, such as this Q&A session. And I also participate in R&D project to sort of test and implement the IDSA concept in real scenarios and make sure the relevancy. And alongside with me is Anil Turkmayali, and then maybe I'll just pass it on to you to introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Shani. And hello, everyone. So Anil, I'm working as a senior project manager in the technology and architecture team of IDSA, and mostly involved with the data space protocol and some other assets as well, and also co-leading our involvement in international R&D projects. So ready to shoot with your technical related questions. So thank you.
Okay, so today, the way that we're going to do it is roughly in this process. So the first half hour will be more of we speak to you, sort of an introduction to IDSA and data spaces in general. There's be a lot of info, I would say, but that's because a lot is happening. So bear with me. It's also worth mentioning here that you will get the slides and the recording at the end of this session. So everything that you see here, you will also get. And of course, then you will also get the chance to ask your own questions. And if time allows it, at the end, we will also show you where else you can interact with us. So without further ado, as I said, we have quite a lot to cover. I will just start. And before diving into IDSA and what we are doing here in this ecosystem and what we're trying to create, why are we even doing this? So why even data spaces, and what is IDSA role in all of this? So to understand why, let's go to the very basic. Data economy, as in the historical context, has evolved over time. So we all know, and we also the bilateral data exchanges, that the most simple data exchange from one to one that started the economy of data sharing in a sense, to the evolvement into close community data sharing of a few to few. And the place where we at today is this sort of emerging need for decentralized dynamic data ecosystem where sharing will be from many to many. And this is a shift that is it's anchored in a real need. It's driven by today's business models, the complexity of the stakeholders that are including multi-stakeholder interactions, and also the exponential growth of data, and the move maybe from data to just be a byproduct to also sort of being the value in itself, in a sense. So this kind of shift into the new business models of today, data-based business models, require for more innovative collaboration across companies, across competitive boundaries. And basically, data must be shared in open data ecosystems for us to stay relevant and unlock the potential of our unlock the economic potential of the data. But the reality shows us that this potential does not come into fruition. So, and we see the numbers here, 80% of industrial data is never used. And if you think about the exponential growth of data of these days, this is a huge economic potential that is basically wasted. And the reason we don't see the realization of such models is that there are basic barriers that discourage companies from sharing data, namely trust issues, interoperability issues, and control concerns. So control concerns, what do we mean here? So on the one side, companies want to link data. we want to unlock the potential economic value, as I said. But on the other hand, companies want to retain their competitive edge. They want to retain their control over the data that is shared. So sort of a balancing act is required between the two needs. On the one side, I want to be part of this game and share my data. And on the other hand, I want to maintain the control. I want to still be the owner. And this is where the data spaces approach sort of comes into play, and also very different maybe from other federated sharing mechanism, because it provides this balance as it provides and allows for data sovereignty. And data sovereignty, what it means is and you have the term right here, is the ability to control data throughout the entire sharing journey. So not only am I giving access to whoever I choose at the access point, but in consequence, usage terms, usage steps as well. So I retain control throughout the entire journey. And that empowers businesses to stay competitive while ensuring that they have the security that they need. And how does it look like? So what is the data spaces approach? First, maybe the term data space. When we say data space, what we mean is the sum of all endpoints that are able to share data with each other. And from this term, you can also already see the derived key principles. So if it's only the sum of all endpoints, there's no physical entity, nor it's not a data lake where all the data funnels into. So it's a federated data architecture. No physical data integration. We leave the data where it is. Another key principle is interoperability. No silos, no vendor lock-in, and that enables us for seamless data exchange. There's no pain when I move from one person, one organization that I want to share data with to the other, because I have interoperability. Data sovereignty, as we already explained, the ability to maintain control over my shared data, and that also include traceability. So I can go back and see how it was used every step of the way. And at the end, it is all anchored in trust. This is basically a trusted ecosystem of participants. What we do is ensure that only those that adhering to the same rules and standards can join, can be a part of this data space and play this game of data sharing. And so these principles together that enable data space also address all the main concerns that cause companies to be hesitant in sharing data. So what the data space approach allows us to do is to decide, basically, do we plug in or not? Interoperability and trustworthiness are not achieved ad hoc. Participants make informed, conscious decisions about the partners and components and about the access and the usage of our data space. So I decide, I am entering this data space, I comply with the rules, I comply with the standards, and then I am also able to retain control over my own data. And so how does it look like? And I'm going to start with a simple general graph and maybe give more color into this as we go along. So this is a basic schema of a data space. On the one hand side, you have the data owner that wants to give his data in order to receive some sort of value from it. And on the other hand side, you have the data user that wants to consume this data. Both sides of this coin, they both have usage policies that they adhere to their data, and they can connect and enter the data space with an IDS connector, which is basically the gateway that allows a participant to enter the data space. It also has the usage policies attached, and it also makes sure that everybody that participant adheres to the rules of and the standards of the data space. This is the most basic necessity of a data space. Of course, we can have multiple users and so on. And we can also have many more components. So we can see here some examples such as vocabulary, the App Store, where we can have more relevant apps and so on, a clearinghouse if needed, a broker and so on. This is very much depends on the specific use case of the data space, how complex it is, how many entities are part of the data space, and so on. I will not get into each and every one of these components, but we will also share with you where else you can read about them and learn about them. And from that graph, let's move on to a more maybe an example that is more anchored in real life, although it's still schematic view, to make the concept a bit more concrete. So this is an example from Industry 4.0, and you can see here at the end, and maybe I will just point out. So you have here the different companies, companies 1, 2, and as I said, there can be as many as you wish, basically. So up until company N+2 and so on. And each one of these companies can connect to the data space through an IDS certified connector, which is the blue circles that you see here. As I said, this is the gateway to the data space, and it ensures compliance with the standards. You can attach the usage policy to the connector, and that allows you to have control and trust over your data sharing decisions. And every entity, be it these companies, these endpoint companies that want to share data or receive data, or any other sort of service provider, somebody that provides another type of component, as you can see here, for example, with the data marketplace and so on, every one of these entities, let's call them, have to have this IDS connector in order to enter the data space. And they all can attach their own policies and terms to any data exchange that is happening. And that's the way that we make sure that this ecosystem is a trusted ecosystem where everybody complies to the same rules. And moving on from more graph view to maybe a bit more of the, let's call it the business view. So a few real life examples, just really in just a few words, just to kind of give you an idea of how can it look like when you enter to the world of data spaces. And I will also share with you where else you can read more about this example and many, many more. So first of all, maybe start with a small use case example. Basque Energy Cluster. This is a real example from the Basque country in Spain, where they created a digital platform for sharing real-time operational wind turbine data. And they did it based on the IDSA reference architecture using IDS connectors, and that enables the wind turbine component suppliers to improve component design and lifetime by sharing their data. A more maybe complex example, so moving on from just a use case to a data space, DASLogi. This is the Dutch data space for logistics, which is a digital virtual environment that enables throughout the logistic domain, the Dutch logistic domain, to find and control sharing of sensitive data. So this one is offering real-time visibility of sensitive data in the entire logistics sector. And another big example, and this is maybe one of the more mature example of data spaces, one of the more famous one, with almost 200 members, last I checked, in the association, Catena X. They are creating secure and trustworthy data infrastructure for automotive network. So using a uniform standard for data exchange that is based on the IDS RAM, they enable data sharing throughout the entire automotive value chain. So between all different types of players that take part in the automotive industry, so equipment suppliers, manufacturers, dealers, and so on. And this was all just to give you a glimpse of the vast differences that you can see in data spaces. So it really is based on a need, case-to-case basis, I would say. So if hopefully by now this first 20 minutes enable to understand maybe a bit better what are data spaces and why do we think this is a great idea to promote them, a little bit about what we at IDSA are doing. So IDSA, we are a non-profit organization. We are headquartered in Dortmund, Germany, but we have colleagues from all over the world, basically. And also we have members from all over the world. We are a member organization, and our members are the backbone of IDSA. You can see here that we have over 170 members from over 30 countries around the world. So we really try to make this a global standard, something that is relevant throughout the entire world. And our members, as you can see here, vary differently from different geographical areas, different focuses. We can see startups and more established companies, research institutes, and so on. So really a varied community, let's say. And all of these members together work with us on creating the standards and our core assets for data sharing for data spaces. This is not something that we do on our own. We enable basically our members to co-create those standards with us. What do we do here as the head office, let's say? Our responsibilities can be categorized into three main pillars. So one, as I said, we coordinate the activities that the community of our members do, and we enable this co-creation of the IDS standard. We also manage the repositories of IDSA, where this is basically in our GitHub, and this is really, I would say, you can find there a treasure trove of information regarding data space and how to establish data spaces. So functional specification, technical documentation, I mentioned other components, so you can find documentation about all components there as well, open source implementations, and so on. So really, all the information you basically need to create a data space. And we also are in charge of community management. So I already said that we have a lot of members, and they are very different in what they are doing, and that gives us an opportunity to work with these members around networking, matchmaking, strategic alignment to make sure that we are all going, let's say, in the same direction when it comes to data spaces and so on. In terms of the core assets, let's say, of what we try to bring into this ecosystem. So the first one, and we can see, we call it sort of the magic triangle, which is a holistic framework for data sharing. And you can see here in the different endpoints of the triangle. So at the very top, the reference architecture model. And this is basically the blueprint for creating data spaces. And it's also in the GitHub that I mentioned, that I just mentioned. The second corner is the certification scheme. So that ensures conformity to the reference architecture and to the standards, to the data spaces standard. That way we can be sure that we have trusted partners and trusted components. And here I would like to specifically mention the certified IDS connectors, which, as we said, they are the gateway for connecting into data spaces, and you can find them on the website. There are 6 certified connectors that have passed, let's say, the checkup, and they are compliant with our standards. So there's one from T-System, VTT, Huawei, TNO, Engineering, and Gate, and you can find much more information on them in our website. And the last corner of the triangle, and I already mentioned that one, is the open source building blocks. So this is the GitHub repository, which is a very practical tool for implementing data spaces and components that are all adhering to the IDS standards. And sort of, I would say, hovering above, you can also see the IDSA rulebook. And that provides the governance scheme that help define the needed structures, the needed processes for implementing the reference architecture model in the real world. And when all of these components come into play, and by following all of these assets together, you get an environment that allows you to create a data space that is adhering to the standard, and so you're entering a trusted and secure ecosystem. And this is also the place, I think, that is a great place to give the stage to Anil, which can explain a bit more about the data space protocol and data sharing also between data spaces and not just inside one data space.
Sure. Thank you, Shani, and hello again. So it's now time to talk a little bit about standardization and standards and what is really needed in terms of interoperability. And data space protocol is did not jump out of blue actually. So it's the result of a long discussion that has its roots like 6 years ago, 7 years ago. So in our ecosystem, there was a project called IDS Communication Protocol. So it's turned into something data space protocol because there was a need from the ecosystem itself that there are many problems in regards to interoperability, and because we need some kind of a structure that really dictates all parties involved in data sharing, how to behave, when, what to do, and all this kind of things. So that's why we are coming with the data space protocol. So it's the work of our ecosystem, and it's available as open source and usable and stable currently, and it's on its way to become an international standard for data sharing. So we are having a lot of problems like limited interoperability, incompatible standards, conflicting formats, because there was no global scaled alignment in data sharing, like how data sharing should be done. I mean, we know how to do many things universally, but for the data sharing, this is brand new and it's coming. So basically, it's the data space protocol is consisting of the clear separation of the control plane from the data plane, because we know that all the data spaces need some kind of scalability and flexibility and modularity as well. So once you implement a successful control plane and you want to implement another data space in another domain for another purpose, then you can easily scale it and adapt it to another implementation of yours. So it's pretty much acting like, the data space protocol is pretty much acting like the what HTTP did for computers to connect over the web, or what Swift is doing for international banking. So it's the international common language or the common structure for data sharing. So here I would like to refer to the new European interoperability framework, which is, as you may know, consisting of these 4 layers: legal, organizational, semantic, and technical. The data space protocol is playing the game mostly in the technical and semantic fields. So it's providing a basis for those two, so that one can expand it with their custom requirements to achieve a higher level of technical and semantic interoperability. But it's providing a structure, and that structure naturally is creating the basis for the interoperability. So here, what is also important is this interdata space interoperability. So as a matter of fact, we know that none of the industries are only interacting with the same industry. So a mobility data space will not only interact with the mobility data space. So it will be subject to interactions and confrontations with other data spaces from other industries or same industry. So data space protocol is a good alignment, is a good global standards to assure that. So it's consisting of 3 main pillars. One is the first one is catalog protocol, where this is actually where the data provider is making the data sets available and compiles them according to a clear structure, which is completely in alignment with DCAT. So DCAT is being used here. And then comes the contract negotiation protocol, where parties, the data providers and consumers, are negotiating on the usage terms of the data sets that will be exchanged, that will be shared. And then the transfer process protocol comes in. The parties align on the authentication mechanisms and the data transfer types and so on, where the data transfer happens. So you may think about these three steps as three consecutive steps that are happening in every kind of trade or every kind of sharing, and that's what they do. So as I said, it didn't come out of blue. So it's the work of our ecosystem, and there are many parties involved in the co-definition of it and also in the use and implementation of it. And so we have kind of a good feedback loop from the implementers, from the adopters, so that we can learn from the field, learn from the ground, and apply it backwards to improve the standard itself. So there are many notable implementers, like including Simple Open or as you can see, all the other logos here. And so we are expecting a huge impact out of that. And of course, there are also some Horizon Europe projects that are adopting the data space protocol. And so this is also something important, as these projects are implementing and experimenting something that we can use as feedback for the data space protocol. So in brief, it's the data space protocol is providing the data sovereignty, because it's making the data consumers consume the data according to the rules set by the data providers. So the data providers are basically able to set and enforce their own usage policies. And then it provides a foundational technical and semantic interpretability. We know that not any solution alone would be enough to achieve 100% technical interpretability, or the same for semantic ones. So you need to extend your implementation with domain-specific needs and or case-specific needs. You may need to use data models. You may need to use vocabularies, ontologies, or any other information models that can be contributing to the semantic interpretability. But the protocol is providing the foundation for that, at least. So, as I said, it's also supporting the growth and scalability needs of data spaces, which are in the nature of data spaces. So, talking about international standardization, currently it's being run as a project under Eclipse Foundation, as a specification project. As of last week, we have the newer version with the most up-to-date specifications, which is 2025 and 1. So I will share the link here. So it's running as a specification project under Eclipse Foundation, and as of this year, we are expecting it to become an ISO standard. So it's already submitted to ISO IEC JTC1, and so we expect a publicly available specification by the end of this year. And this will be super advantageous for all the adopters, because then once you adopt this protocol and once it becomes an ISO standard, so it will not be subject to any change, at least any radical change, for many years. So it will just enhance the stability of the protocol itself. So I think by here I complete my part, and then I'm ready to jump in with technical answers. Thank you.
Yeah, I will just go ahead and share again the presentation. I want to continue to take another 5 minutes to go over a few assets that are not of the technical nature, let's say, and then we can open to question and answers. You can also feel free to already put your questions in the chat or in the Q&A slot, and we will get to them in a few minutes. So as I said, we also have some supporting tools and assets that support the creation of data spaces and are less technical in nature. So first and foremost, the data spaces radar. For those of you who don't know, the data space radar is a very unique tool, and that the only one of its kind in the ecosystem that offers a comprehensive overview of data spaces initiative worldwide. It has both data spaces and use cases where you can get a snapshot of all of everything that is going on, where you can see all the different dots are basically different data spaces that are happening out there in the real world. And they are organized so that the most mature ones are closer to the centers, closest to the radar's center. And so you can use the radar to kind of explore the ecosystem. And it's more than just this nice, pretty graph, because behind it, you can also really delve into the information about each and every one of these little dots. You can see technical foundation, specification, the exact so to say, business case, what was the challenge that they are trying to overcome, and so on. And so this is available to you in our website. It's important to say that this is a community tool. So all of the entries are based on user submitted information. They are here from the community. And this is also my place to extend an invitation to you to bring, if you already have some use cases and data spaces, to bring them into the radar, kind of showcase your impact in a way and engage the community, and also have it as an example for others to learn from. The three examples that I showcased earlier, the Basque Energy Cluster, the Slogist, and Catena X, you can find more information about them and about many, many other data spaces in the radar. So far, we have almost 190, let's say, entries. Most of them are data spaces, but some use cases. And you can see here the spread of the different domains. You can see, for example, that there's a lot of examples from the manufacturing industry, because that's really where the concept of data spaces started. But we already see a big spread to other domains as well. So on the rise, so with mobility and energy and smart cities and so on. So this is a great tool to learn from, and also kind of open your mind to the different use cases of data spaces. We also have a strong network of international hubs and competence centers around the world. And these are, let's say, some sort of a local hub when you can get IDS information in your own language, in your own country. So they differ from one another. So some provide more resources and guidance, some increase awareness, create components, and so on. But they are all a valuable asset for data spaces in a specific country. So this is another place where you can go to find more support. And something that we launched a couple of months back is the IDSA Professional Certificate, or the IDSA training program, where you can go take trainings that were created according to our syllabus. So according to the specific program that we think is the right one to give a certificate of expertise. Get an exam, show the community your skills, and learn about data spaces, and onboard your teams quickly. We are not the one that offer the training ourselves. We have partners that offer the training, but all the training are aligned with the syllabus that is created in our training working group. so you will know that they have good coverage of what you need. So you can find there today trainings regarding data space fundamentals. And we also expect to see two more kind of courses for more technical course, and one more for business consultant approach, let's say. All of that will be in the training catalog, but it's another really good place where you can get up to speed really quickly regarding data spaces. This is also a place maybe to mention that if you are an organization that provide training, and this can be of interest to you, to work with us on creating your training program that is aligned with our syllabus, that is also a possibility, and you can reach out to us and we can try and see what we can work together. And I will now wrap up with this maybe very complex slide, but it gives a nice and comprehensive summation of everything that we talked about in the last half an hour, and kind of brings everything that we do, the IDSA concept and assets, into one slide in a sense. So what we try to do basically in IDSA, if I can sum everything that we said right now, is to support this approach of data spaces all the way from conception to full-scale adoption. And the way that we do it is by providing tools and initiatives that are relevant at all the different stages of the adoption cycle, in a sense. So starting from the very left corner, when we talk about the foundational infrastructure, we work on aligning architectures and thought leaderships on data space. This is to ensure something coherent in this world regarding standard compliant foundation for data spaces. And that's where it's worth mentioning the Data Space Support Center, where we work with other key initiatives in this realm to align the biggest driving forces in the ecosystem, because if you want to have sovereignty, if you want to have interoperability, it will only work if we have well-aligned architectures. And so moving on to the second stage, here we provide in the implementation stage, the foundational infrastructure can be brought to life into implementation with open source solutions. So I already mentioned the GitHub repository, and Anil mentioned briefly collaboration with the Eclipse Foundation and so on. And also moving forward, we can talk about the availability of IDS certified data connectors that enable to implement data spaces that are secure and adhere to the standards. It's also worth mentioning that we have a periodic connector report, and this is a nice resource to get an overview of the connectors that are out there and market insights. And these tools hopefully lead to successful implementations, so successful data spaces that are out there in the real world. And that's where we try to provide detailed use cases, detailed success stories. And I already mentioned the radar, which is one central place where you can find information of about those use cases. And lastly, we try to drive global standardization to enable widespread adoption, so collaboration with standardization bodies such as Sensenelec, ISO, IEEE, and so on. And that way we can ensure international alignment to the standards. So all of this combined can take us all the way from the very foundational alignment all the way to widespread adoption, hopefully enabling a prosperous future for the data spaces ecosystem, in a sense. And with that, because that was a lot, we know it was a lot, I will briefly stop here and give the stage to you if you have any questions. So I don't see at the moment any questions in the chat or in the QA. Okay, we have a first question. So yes, Javier, please. I have allowed, we've allowed for you to speak, so you should be able to speak now.
Yes, hello, good morning. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the session. Very, very interesting. My question is around the identity aspect of the data space implementation or deployment. Um, uh, um, Specifically, what is the relationship between IDSA with the so-called decentralized claim protocol (DCP)? Yes, I know DSP is in the ISO kitchen in these days, I think. But my question is around identity and what is the relationship between these two aspects of the data space adoption, because I think there are two very close aspects in the use cases. And my question is if the IDSA is involved in the decentralized claim protocol development or not.
So I can directly jump in with that. Thank you, Javier, for the question. So we can say that, so this is also, as you know, this is also a project under Eclipse Data Spaces Working Group, and it's also supporting the data space protocol. So both projects, we see them to be very complementary, because data space protocol alone is not enough to ensure the trust between the participants, and when it comes to the identity and other mechanisms. So that's why we always say we should always use a trust framework for that. And decentralized claims protocol is actually the universal effort to make this universal standard. And so we see data space protocol and decentralized claims protocol in their envisioned goal. They will work in tandem, and they will work in completely complementary manner, I would say. So this is how we see it, but as IDSA, we are focusing on data sharing only, and decentralized claims protocol more falls into the Gaia X domain, because they work more in the trust framework area, I would say.
So you mean that not directly, but you are more or less more, or you will be more or less aligned with this DSP protocol. And if I heard well, this is it is the Gaia X who manage or who run the working group for developing this DCP protocol.
No, it's so it's like that. So we have the Eclipse Data Spaces Working Group, where IDSA and Gaia X are both members, and there are also other companies and organizations. Yeah, and DCP and DSP are both projects under this umbrella, and they have their own committers, their own like whomever is interested is totally open for external contributions. So these are open source projects.
Okay, got it. Got it. Thank you very much. Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you, Javier. Any other questions? I don't see anything in the chat or the Q&A. We'll give it another second or so. Or what we can do is you can continue think if you have any other questions, and I will quickly move on to show, because we have a few more minutes, I can show you where else you can interact with us, basically. So first of all, you can co-create with us. As I said, we are member-driven organization, and all the assets that we talked about are the work of us together with our members. It's not us in the headquarters at Dortmund. So if you are a member, you can join our working group, and you can see them here. We have 4 working group. So working group architecture, which meets quarterly, and also have the sub working group for the RAM5, for the data space protocol, and for and the sub working group for personal data. And you can see here the occurrences of their meeting points. Working group certification that deals with the certification scheme that we talked about. Again, we also have here sub-working group for the test bed and for IDS testing that needs a working group that meets monthly. Working group rule book, as I mentioned, our governance overall governance scheme, let's say, that means monthly, and working group training that meets monthly as well. That deals with our new training program and creates together the syllabus that the trainings are based on. And we also have task forces that are open for everyone. It's not exclusive to members. These are more ad hoc, one for legal framework, one for energy interoperability that kind of deals, gets together a few different projects in the energy domain that meet together and work on interoperability between projects in the energy sector, and Task Force China. So this is one place where you can co-create with us. And I see that we already have a few questions, and I think that's important. So before moving on to where else you can interact with us, maybe I can do a little pause. I see that we have a hand raised and then a question also in the Q&A. So let's start with the raised hand. Let me just allow for a microphone. So Moritz, you have a question.
Hi, thank you so much, first of all, for this great Q&A session. My question is maybe a bit more marketing focused and not that technical. It feels like we have great technology here, but are there any mechanisms or approaches to promote this in the industry so the industry adopts this technology?
So let me say at the top of my head that one of the things that we are now creating the shift, and we will have more details on this in the upcoming weeks, to not only work, let's say, with the makers of data spaces, but also with the end user of data spaces. So really our members are mostly, let's say, they are more on the maker side. They create the components, they work with us on the standards, but we know that at the end, also the end users will need support in adopting this approach. Basically, they will need tools, they will need the insight. We are working on that right now, so I can't share a lot, but maybe I can tease this a bit and say stay tuned and keep on being updated by what we at IDSA are doing. We will have more opportunities, hopefully, to also engage these sort of end users and help their adoption. I also want to mention here one of the papers that we have, and maybe I can share that in a second, that also is more on the business side and can be used as an asset to help with the adoption. Just a second, let me see. So we recently published a paper regarding data spaces business models, which is more on the business side of things, and that can also help to see the different perspective that are needed or that people use when they come to adopt data spaces. How we can create value and the different, let's say, typology of business cases of business model that you can use when it comes to data spaces. So that also can be of help. But mostly, I would say, stay tuned, and we will have more, hopefully, more insights and more tools available for data spaces users as well, and help in that approach. Anil, is there anything else that you can think about on the top of your head?
No, I think your summary was super comprehensive.
Okay. Yeah. So hopefully more on that soon.
Thank you so much.
No problem. I will move on to the next question that I see in the Q&A. And Anil, I think I can direct this one to you. Could you provide an update on the standardization progress of the data space protocol? When is it expected to be published as an ISO standard? And is there any reason for the delay in standardization?
Yeah, I mean, for that, so I will start by the second question, when it's expected to be published. So we expect it to be published by the end of this year. And the other things, so there are no any reasons for the, except for the formatting. The formatting is a problem at the moment. And so we mostly spend our time with the formatting thing, I can say.
Okay, so hopefully that gave an answer to the question. I will continue showing where else you can interact with us. And again, feel free to jump in, basically, raise your hands or put in questions, and we will take them into consideration. Another place, if you are a member, where you can interact with us is the IDSA Ecosystem Building Call. So this is a weekly sort of heartbeat for the IDSA member. It's a weekly slot every Monday at 9 a.m. CET. Usually more business focused and strategic, and less technical. And each and every time, someone from the IDSA member have the opportunity to present their project, to start discussion, sharing experiences, and so on. And we also bring in updates on the latest news from the ecosystem. So if you are a member and you're not already there, this is a really highly valuable slot that can give you much more information. Some other updates from recent involvement. So the latest version of our reference architecture, the REM 5, is now available. It's a draft version, but you can take a look at that and also provide to us feedback and see sort of the next step or the next iteration of the reference architecture. You can also meet us in the Data Spaces the Data Spaces Symposium, which is next week. So I assume that you already have the ticket, and if not, this is a last chance to decide spontaneously that you want to make the travel and join us. This is, I would say, the biggest data space event of the year. Basically, this is an IDSA event that we do alongside with the Data Spaces Support Center. So all the big strategic initiatives in the realm of data spaces together. And it's in Warsaw, 11 and 12 of March. And there we will also have a bit more information about what I briefly mentioned regarding some assets or activities that are more user focused. So might be worth making the trip. This is a little bit more information about the symposium. You can see a little bit what we will tackle there. So AI, what is the business value and economic value, different domains. These are all things that we will focus a little bit in the symposium. So hopefully a lot of the IDSA core team will be there. So this is a great place to meet us as well. Another place where you can find us, and I think Anna from our team also put it in the chat, where you can meet us if you plan to go to visit the Hanover Messe. We will have our on-site event, Data Spaces for Industry, where we'll be showcasing real best use cases in Industry 4.0 and Manufacturing X. So if you're already there, we will also be there, and we'll be happy to meet you there. And then very briefly, just a reminder that we have our archive where you can see a lot of old sessions, a lot of old updates, old Q&A sessions, and so on. So a lot of more information that you can consume in our archive. And you can also stay up to date with the latest news on data spaces in a LinkedIn, where we try to be very active and give you all the information needed. And in case you're still not a member, but what we talked about here is relevant to you, then I would very much encourage you to become a member of IDSA and work with us on co-creating the standards, and also enjoy, in a sense, our more closely entwined help and support. It is very, very easy to join as a member, as easy as 1 to 3, as you can see here. And we have here in the chat also Anna Darbianco. She's managing the entire membership prospect in IDSA. So you can always reach out to her with more questions about membership. Also, if you are already a member and you have any questions, she is the go-to person in IDSA. And as we are 1 minute away from wrapping up anyway, unless there's any last minute question, I think we can, I don't see any questions, so I think we can go ahead and thank you for joining us. And hopefully this was of value. I want to remind you that we will put this, we will give you this recording and also this presentation. So the information is with you, and we are also here for more support if you need it. So thank you very much from the IDSA side. I think we can wrap it up then.
Thank you very much for the participation and the feedback.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.